Tonight, more COVID rules lifted in the Spencer Gulf, but what's changing and when? And a Port Lincoln man to front court after allegedly using fake $50 notes to pay for petrol.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. 2.5 years since the pandemic was declared, some of the remaining COVID-19 restrictions are finally coming to an end. The controversial mask mandate on public transport, the latest rule to be scrapped.
Australians can finally start to breathe in fresh air again, with some mask mandates being lifted. The South Australian government announced that masks will no longer be required on public transport. Effective as of midnight last night, SA has followed suit with Western Australia, Tasmania and the Northern Territory. Furthermore, as of this Friday, September 23rd, South Australians will no longer have to check in via QR code to disability or healthcare facilities. Visitors entering aged care homes won't be required to be double vaccinated against COVID either. New South Wales also not far behind, with similar mandates being scrapped as of tomorrow. The Premier of South Australia saying it's a logical step in the right direction.
I think this is another step forward in terms of the management of the pandemic. We have made it very clear that as a government we are determined to relax restrictions as soon as it is safe to do so.
Naturally, COVID cases are on the decline. According to the Australian government data, the number of COVID-19 hospitalisations has decreased by an average of -12.8% compared to the previous week. Isolation periods also easing in SA. Now, anyone who has contracted COVID only needs to isolate for 5 days as opposed to a week. However, people can only leave self-quarantine once acute symptoms have gone. With more and more restrictions easing, people are now slowly returning to what life was like pre-pandemic. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A 52-year-old man has been arrested in Port Lincoln after he allegedly attempted to use fake $50 notes over the past week. Police will allege last Tuesday, September 13, a person handed over a $50 note at a shop on Liverpool Street. The money was later deposited at a local bank, where staff noticed the note was counterfeit. Similarly, on Wednesday, the following day, a man entered a petrol station on King Street and attempted to pay for items with cash. However, staff realised the money was fake and reported it to police. Following the investigation, police arrested a man and charged him with 3 counts of alleged deception. He was granted bail and will appear in the Port Lincoln Magistrates Court on the 9th of December. Police are urging everyone to be mindful of counterfeit notes, and if you are to obtain one, please report it as soon as possible. 2 more alleged drink drivers have been caught in the Mid-North over the weekend. The first driver, a 30-year-old Whyalla Stuart man, allegedly recorded a blood alcohol reading of 0.119. Further checks revealed he was driving unlicensed, unregistered, and his vehicle was defective. The second driver, a 27-year-old Port Pirie local, allegedly recorded a blood alcohol reading of 0.135. Both will face court at a later date. Like metropolitan Adelaide, regional areas have also felt the squeeze of house price increases and extremely low rental vacancy. During last week's Country Cabinet, ministers attended a housing roundtable to discuss the unique challenges and possible solutions.
The Labor government has committed to more than $177 million to a housing investment program, dished out over 4 years. The program will not only create new dwellings, but also upgrade and maintain existing homes.
The loss of housing SA homes due to being vacated and needed to be upgraded. There's probably about 200 or 300 houses across all of regional South Australia.
The initiation of the program has already begun, with tender packages being developed for the construction of 48 new public houses in the Spencer Gulf cities, with construction scheduled to start before the end of the financial year, something MP Jeff Brock is pleased about.
A young kid, I lived in a housing trust, a housing SA home, a trust home. My parents couldn't afford to do anything else. We actually, it was a great lifestyle, and so that's what we need to do.
With over 6,000 people in South Australia experiencing homelessness, this alarming statistic is helping form the foundation of the program, with 50 units set to be built as well.
I don't think people really understand the trauma and the frustration that's out there with a lot of people, but it's going to take time to fix it, but I am glad to see there's a direction going forward.
Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The New South Wales government is set to undertake an ambitious plan to cover every road in the state through live traffic. It was announced as the website celebrated 12 years of informing people of road conditions, including those in the Far West.
Live Traffic New South Wales will be a one-stop shop, bringing together all of the state's traffic information, even regional roads.
We will be expanding the Live Traffic app to include an additional 22 local government areas in regional New South Wales.
The Central Darling Shire now part of that list, which also includes places like Lismore, Bega, Ballina and Inverell. Councils in these areas will be given free access to One Road, the back-end platform that powers live traffic in the state.
What the TMC and New South Wales Government, working with Transport for New South Wales, have been able to achieve is new technology in our One Road tech platform.
Not only will all the data collected be made available through live traffic, it will also be made accessible to third-party apps like Google and Apple Maps and TomTom.
We have buy-in from local councils, local communities to ensure that we are feeding the local road data into the One Road platform here at the Traffic Management Centre.
20 to 30 more LGAs will be on board in the first quarter of 2023, with the state government hoping that all 128 will be a part of One Road by 2024. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Kadeena's Camelot Garden Stroll will be open to the public this spring, which is without a doubt the best time to visit. What began as a love for gardening is now described as a must-see, unique sensory and visual experience, which has raised thousands of dollars for charities. With the garden up for sale, this might be your last chance to visit the spectacular site. Still to come tonight, cleaner water, safer sea life and protecting our coastline. A new natural reef to be created here in the Spencer Gulf. And fun and games galore at the Silver City Show. Punters from across Broken Hill enjoy the carnival experience at Memorial Oval. Welcome back. The idea of a man-made reef may sound futuristic, but one is currently underway off the coast of Port Broughton, with scientists obtaining footage of the seabed below to ascertain the site's suitability.
Barunga West and the Nature Conservatory are working together to identify the best location for the creation of a natural reef.
We've been talking to fishermen and locals around the place. We've had some surveys of the spot and it's really quite exciting.
The natural reef will not only be a spectacular site, but it will assist with water filtration, fish protection and shoreline protection.
Port Broughton and Fisherman Bay are a very popular fishing spot for recreational fishermen, and so it's something to look forward to in the next couple of years.
The building of a natural reef begins with the creation of a reef base, which includes limestone rubble and recycled shells which mimic the foundation of a natural reef. The base is then seeded with millions of baby oysters and mussels, creating a habitat for local fish.
And the next step will be to talk to state and federal government about getting some funding to actually implement the natural reef.
Since 2021, the Nature Conservatory have restored 21 hectares of reef, and hopefully Port Broughton is next. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Silver City Show returned over the weekend for the first time since 2019. Thousands of people flocking to Memorial Oval over 3 days, enjoying rides, good food and a show bag or two.
Members of the Silver City Show Committee were blown away with how the community came and supported the much anticipated event.
Oh, yeah, look, you know, we've been down and out, we've been kicked to pieces, but we rose up and, yeah, no, with Broken Hill's help, it was a great success. I'm so thrilled.
The support from the community making the return of the 133-year-old event as sweet as fairy floss, especially since the past two shows were canned due to COVID.
I think in some cases it was beyond words because we'd started to get the show ready for 2 years and it didn't happen, and, you know, it was sort of like getting a kick in the gut each time.
While official numbers of attendees are yet to be released, it's fair to say that thousands went along over the course of 3 days to enjoy the rides, their favourite food and to pick out a show bag.
The people of Broken Hill come out in thousands and, you know, they supported us, and basically the show is theirs. We put it on every year for them. But, yeah, there are no words really to how good I feel right now.
The committee will now take a well-earned break before getting back together again in 2 weeks to discuss the AGM, which is coming up in December. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us. After the break, Queen Elizabeth laid to rest alongside her husband, following last night's funeral streamed by billions around the world. And South Australians gather in Adelaide to bid farewell to Her Majesty. Welcome back. Resting alongside her husband, Her Majesty is now finally home in her beloved Windsor Castle. In her 7 decades of service, the late Queen always held a special affinity with Windsor and its people. Seven's Europe correspondent Sarah Greenold spoke with some of these locals on a momentous day in history.
What was the Queen's connection to this town, and how do you think Windsor will be after this?
I think it'll be in a good place, to be honest. She was very dear to many, many people around here, and you know, always felt that connection when you came to the town.
People used to see her with her headscarf, riding her horses, going to Ascot to the races.
Oh, she was. You know, she was always a very welcoming person to anyone. I mean, I even met her at Ascot Racecourse very briefly, and just to get that short smile from someone like that is just remarkable. So she really connected with people so well.
How do you think Windsor will be going forward? Because I come here a lot for this job, and I guess you associate Windsor with the Queen. What do you think it will do to the area, the town?
I think her memory will live on a long, long time. She was loved by everybody, and yeah, I just hope King Charles follows her lead.
Guests from across the Commonwealth and beyond were among the thousands in the congregation. The everyday Australians given the honour of representing our country at the Queen's funeral, and they've reflected on their experience at the service.
It was an absolute honour. It was a moment in time. History, being part of history, it was wonderful.
Out the front, the pipe band, and that just sends goes right through.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the rest of the delegation will return to Australia ahead of Thursday's public holiday. And South Australians are farewelling the Queen at a state service tonight, held at St Peter's Cathedral in Adelaide. Earlier today, final preparations were underway, making sure there was enough seating for everyone wanting to attend. All 600 seats in the pews were snapped up within hours, including 450 spots for members of the public, the others reserved for politicians and dignitaries. While around 300 people registered to sit outside tonight to pay their respects to the Queen. The wet weather forecast was not enough to deter mourners from attending the service, despite the Weather Bureau predicting a 100% chance of rain earlier today. Also earlier today, the Premier offered his condolences in Parliament.
Her devotion to duty and her love of country is an inspiration to us all. And while we mourn together, we also share a moment of reflection on her extraordinary life and legacy of service.
There's about 10 minutes left of the 90-minute service, which can be watched live on the state government's website. Stay with us. After the break, reporter Henry Millick recaps the Whyalla Football League's grand final. And as always, we'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Golf News. The Whyalla Football League also wrapped up their season over the weekend, hosting their grand final on Bennett Oval. Like most leagues, it was the top two teams who met on the big stage, seeing Central Whyalla get their revenge on Waroona Bay after losing the first final.
It was a grand final day to remember, with much anticipation going into this matchup. Waroona Bay came out looking fresh after having the week off, but it was the top of the table Central Whyalla who had it all to prove. It was a tightly contested opening first minutes, with both teams not giving up the footy. But young gun Lee Rinkland took his opportunity, playing on and kicking the first goal of the final for Waroona Bay. The Bay's defence holding up strongly, but an undisciplined free kick gave Sam Marshall his chance to put the first one on the board for Central Whyalla. Both teams neck and neck going into half-time, with the score reading 18-11 in favour of Central Whyalla. In the second half, some costly mistakes from Waroona Bay saw them suffer on the scoreboard. And it was all Central Whyalla from there on, hitting up targets and walking through for an open goal.
Player at the back, and that's the mark. Oh, he's played on, he's allowed to waltz in. That's how you do it. If you're going to waltz into goal, you do it like that, and well done the big fella.
In the end, Central Whyalla ran away with the game and got their revenge on the Bays, with the final score reading 56-24. Mark Tanzer was named best on ground in the grand final as the Centrals claimed the flag, cementing themselves as the best team in the league. That concludes all things football across the Spencer Golf. We'll be back in a few weeks' time, bringing you all the results from the up-and-coming cricket season. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Cricket, here we come. Thanks for that, Henry. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, good evening to you. There was a healthy downpour in Ceduna this afternoon.
Good evening to you too, Maddie. And yes, there certainly was. Around 13 millimetres fell at 3 p.m. this afternoon, which is more rain than the entire month of August. It follows a few other decent bouts of rainfall on Saturday. The small town recorded 10 millimetres and around 9 a few days before that. Taking a look at some of today's temperatures now, 25 in Port Augusta, Broken Hill reached 24 degrees, 22 in Port Pirie this afternoon, tempered by a moderate gale blowing, which reached a peak speed of 56 kilometres an hour just before midday. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 26 degrees in Cooper Pedy, that was our warmest centre today. Whyalla reached 23 degrees, Port Lincoln recorded a maximum of 16 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a low pressure system and associated trough over the central parts of the state will move eastwards overnight. A high pressure system will form over the west of the state tomorrow, then move slowly eastwards later in the week. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southeast to southwesterly winds 20 to 25 knots in the morning, seas between 1.5 and 2.5 metres, south to southwesterly swell below a metre, increasing up to 1.5 metres. Partly cloudy in Port Lincoln on Wednesday, set to reach a high of 18 degrees there. Early shower or two in Cleve between 11 and 18 tomorrow. Possible early shower in Woodner, heading for a top of 20 degrees there. Whyalla can expect some rain tomorrow morning, temperature-wise 19 degrees. Similar conditions in Port Augusta, 20 degrees. A shower or two in Kadina as well, between 9 and 17 degrees. Showers easing around Port Pirie, set to reach a high of 18 degrees. 14 degrees and showers in Clare, and showers clearing in Broken Hill down to 11 tonight, 18 tomorrow. Taking a look further through the week now, much drier conditions on Thursday. Partly cloudy, 19 in Port Lincoln and Adelaide, 18 in Kadina and Broken Hill. Whyalla will be partly cloudy and 20 degrees, 23 in Port Augusta. Moving on to Friday's outlook now, sunny top of 31 degrees up north in Cooper Pedy. Rain returning to the Port Augusta, 24 degrees. Showers are 19 in Woodna, 20 in Whyalla, 21 in Port Pirie. Even sunnier on Saturday, blue skies and 23 in Woodna and Port Augusta. Sunny in Port Pirie as well, 21 degrees, 19 in Whyalla. Partly cloudy conditions, 18 in Kadina. Mostly sunny in far west New South Wales, 19 degrees in Broken Hill. And just quickly, Maddie, a strong wind warning has been issued for the Spencer Gulf tomorrow. The Weather Bureau will update again at 5:10 tomorrow morning with more information. Until then, stay safe. It's back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Tuesday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.